Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for another story here at Annie Narrates. The title for today's story goes like this. Fiance and my brother have meetups without me and tell me not to worry because it's for my wedding surprise, but one day, I hear them laughing about this and cancel the wedding immediately. Hey there, I'm Jake, 27 male, just a regular guy. Head over heels in love and on the brink of tying the knot with my amazing fiance Emily, 25 female. I'm not your average groom-to-be though. I'm not just thrilled about the wedding, I am practically bursting with joy. Emily and I share a bond that's beyond those usual love stories. We're partners in crime, best friends and soulmates. Emily and I first met in college. We were in the same class and one day, we got paired up for a project. At first, we were just classmates, but as we spent more time working together, we discovered we had a lot in common. We both loved hiking and trying out new restaurants. Our friendship grew, and it is safe to say that we soon became inseparable. One day, after a delightful hiking trip with Emily, I came to the realization that my feelings for her had evolved. She was no longer just a friend. I saw her as someone I wanted to spend my life with. Nervous about expressing my feelings, I gathered the courage, and to my joy, she felt the same way. That marked the beginning of our romantic journey. The day I decided to propose to Emily was brimming with nervous excitement. I was determined to make the moment special, reflecting our unique journey together. Planning a surprise weekend getaway to a cozy mountain cabin, a place filled with memories, seemed perfect. On the proposal day, we embarked on a scenic hike to a breathtaking lookout point. Little did she know, I had secretly arranged for a close friend to set up a picnic with all of Emily's favorite snacks and a blanket near the edge of a cliff. As we reached the summit, emotions overwhelmed me. I took a deep breath and poured my heart out, expressing how much Emily meant to me and how our journey has led us to this beautiful moment. With trembling hands, I kneeled down, presenting a ring. The look of surprise and joy on Emily's face is a memory I'll cherish forever. She said yes, and in that magical moment, surrounded by nature's beauty, we sealed our love with a sweet kiss. However, something strange has been happening lately. Emily and my brother Max, who's 24, have been acting a bit weird. Whenever I enter a room, they exchange these secretive smiles, and there's this mysterious vibe between them. It's got me super curious. I couldn't help but wonder, what's going on with these clandestine meetings? I decided to confront them about it, and they quickly reassured me saying, "Oh, don't worry Jake, it's just for the wedding surprise. You're going to love it." Despite their attempts to ease my concerns, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. I mean, surprises are great, but why all the secrecy? Despite my doubts, I chose to trust them both, thinking, how bad could a surprise be? Little did I know that this mystery was about to add an unexpected twist to our wedding planning. As the days went by, I couldn't help but notice Emily and Max whispering and giggling, always looking like they were scheming something. As the secret meetings between Emily and Max became more frequent, my curiosity evolved into a full-blown investigation. I may not be Sherlock Holmes, but when your fiancé and brother start acting like they're on a Mission Impossible mission, suspicion naturally creeps in. One day, feeling like a spy in my own home, I stumbled upon them in the backyard. They were huddled together, as if they had been caught red-handed. My quote-unquote spidey senses kicked in, and I was determined to uncover the truth. So, I casually approached them, trying to maintain a facade of normalcy, while keeping my detective eyes sharp. Both of them wore guilty smiles and insisted it was all for a wedding surprise, asking me to relax. Now call me skeptical, but hearing wedding surprise didn't exactly calm the storm of questions in my head. What kind of surprise needs this level of secrecy? Are they planning to bring in dancing unicorns or organize a surprise skiving session for the guests? I needed answers. The mystery was getting even more puzzling, and I couldn't wait to see what they were up to. As the days went by, their mysterious behavior persisted, and I felt like an outsider to some exclusive club. They'd had these late-night strategy sessions, leaving me wondering what they were plotting. However, I held on to the belief that their surprise would be mind-blowing. Little did I know, my trust was in for a surprise of its own, and it wasn't the kind I had hoped for. One day, while going about my business, I accidentally overheard Emily and Max in the next room. They were laughing, but something about it seemed off, raising doubts about whether there was more to this mystery than I had initially thought. I couldn't resist playing detective and getting closer to find out what was going on. I tiptoed like a ninja spy, trying to be all cool about it. And then I heard it. A conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. They were talking about the big wedding surprise, and I was excited to finally get some answers. But then bam, the bomb dropped, and they spilled the beans about their grand plan. Brace yourselves. They were going to release doves right after our wedding ceremony. You know, those graceful birds that symbolize love and peace? You see, there's this little detail about me they seem to have forgotten. I have ornithophobia. Fancy term, right? It means I am terrified of birds. Feathers, beaks, flapping wings. The whole bird package sends shivers down my spine. And guess what? They were planning a grand entrance of the very creatures that could send me into a panic attack. Suddenly, the room felt smaller, and the walls seemed to close in on me. The surprise I had eagerly anticipated turned into my worst nightmare. They were talking about bird-themed decorations for the reception, doves soaring into the sky. Basically, they'd taken a stroll through the How to Freak Jake handbook and decided to throw it all into the mix. I couldn't believe it. My dream of a perfect wedding was turning into a feathered nightmare. I had to take a moment to gather my thoughts. How did they know about my bird fear? I needed to figure out how to tell them that this surprise, as lovely as it sounded, was more like a scene from a horror movie for me. It got me thinking, how did they not know about my phobia? Didn't we have those late-night heart-to-heart talks where I rambled on about everything, including my fear of birds? I couldn't believe it. The two people who were supposed to know me inside out were planning something that could turn my dream wedding into a scene from a scary movie. In that moment, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, disappointment, and a bit of hurt. I mean, come on. They inadvertently turned my wedding day into a Hitchcockian nightmare. So, I decided it was time to have a chat with Emily and Max about what they were up to behind my back. I needed to understand why they didn't connect the dots about my fear. Maybe they were so caught up in making everything perfect that they missed this important detail. I walked into the room and I couldn't believe what I saw. I started yelling, "What's going on, guys? Doves? Decorations with birds everywhere? Are you trying to scare me on my big day?" I must have looked really upset, like a mix of an angry bull and a sad puppy, but I didn't care. I needed to know what was happening. So, what did they say? Well, they had a bunch of reasons, and they were trying to explain themselves. Emily said it was supposed to be a beautiful and meaningful symbol of love and togetherness. Max, always good with words, added, "Come on, Jake, it was meant to be a magical moment." Emily even told me that I should just get over my fear of that one day. I tried to calm down and listen to their explanations, but I couldn't understand why they thought birds and doves were a good idea. I mean, I've always been afraid of birds, and they knew that. It felt like they weren't really thinking about what I wanted for my wedding. I took a deep breath and told them that I appreciated their efforts, but I couldn't handle the bird decorations. I explained how scared I felt and that it was important for me to feel comfortable on my wedding day. I didn't want to be on edge or worried about birds flying around, but they still kept dismissing my fears, telling me to grow up. I was deeply hurt and upset because I felt betrayed by my own loved ones. It wasn't a decision I made lightly, but the pain I felt was so intense that it triggered a strong reaction from me. I couldn't understand why they would allow things to get so messed up without considering how it would affect me. Unable to contain my emotions, I ended up yelling at them, demanding answers. "Why did you do this to me? Didn't you realize how much it would hurt me?" Even when they tried to make amends, it didn't bring any relief. Max apologized and promised to rectify things, but it felt like trying to mend a broken vase with glue. The cracks were still visible. I consider what happened to be a significant issue because it was meant to be a special and unforgettable moment. Their apologies and efforts to rectify things only heightened my distress. I wanted them to comprehend how much it meant to me, and I couldn't fathom why they hadn't considered that beforehand. It was supposed to be a magical moment, but it turned into a complete nightmare for me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing when I learned about the plan. Did they truly expect me to be thrilled about a terrifying Hitchcock-like scenario on the most significant day of my life? I needed them to understand the seriousness of the situation. It wasn't just a minor surprise gone awry. It felt like a breach of trust. I had confided in them about my fear of birds, and now they were planning something that would trigger a panic. I tried to convey the gravity of the situation to them. This wasn't solely about a failed surprise. It was about trust and respect. I had hoped they would take my feelings into account, especially on such a pivotal day. Instead, it felt like they were setting me up for a panic attack, which felt like a betrayal. I had to make the tough decision not to go through with the wedding. It wasn't an easy choice, but it was something I had to do. I couldn't go through with it after realizing how little they cared about me and respected me. Now I have multiple people calling me and telling me how much of a jerk I am. So am I the a-hole for canceling my wedding because my fiance ignored my fear of birds? Edit. As so many people are still wondering if I could have gotten over my fear for just a day, I want to let you know how my ornithophobia works. Imagine feeling a wave of fear every time you see a bird. For someone like me, it's not just a casual discomfort, it's a serious fear. When I encounter birds, my heart races, and a sense of panic sets in. It's not about disliking birds or finding them annoying, it's a deep-seated fear that can be quite overwhelming. You know that feeling when your stomach churns and your palms get sweaty? That's what happens to me when I spot a bird nearby. The fear isn't rational. It's more like an automatic response that I can't control, as if my body goes into alert mode, warning me of impending danger. I started getting a lot of calls from Emily after the wedding was called off. It felt like she wanted to talk and fix things, but I needed time to heal. At first, I ignored her calls, hoping she would understand that I needed some space. But she kept calling, and it seemed like she wanted everything to go back to the way it was. I knew that wasn't possible. Instead of getting caught up in all those calls, I decided to concentrate on healing. It was hard, but my friends and family were there for me. They told me that healing takes time, and that I needed to focus on myself. Every time Emily called and I didn't pick up, it strengthened my resolve to move forward and build a new life without the pain of a broken relationship. It wasn't easy dealing with all those calls from Emily. I wanted her to understand that I needed time to sort out my feelings. Ignoring her calls wasn't about being mean. It was about taking care of myself and finding a way to move on. During those tough days, my friends and family became my support system. They reminded me that healing is a process, and it's okay to take the time that I needed. I started realizing that my decision to break off the wedding was the right one for me. Emily kept leaving me voicemails, apologizing, and promising to make things right. It made me want to pick up the phone and try to fix everything, but I had to stick to what I knew was best for me and not let her words mess with my decisions. Those voicemails were a mix of her feeling bad about what happened and wanting another chance. It was tough not to feel pulled in different directions. I understood her pain, got annoyed with her constant calls, and had to make sure I was taking care of myself. It was like a jumble of feelings inside me. Even though it was hard, I knew I needed to stick to my decision and not give in to the urge to answer. I had to be true to myself and not let her words mess up my thinking. It was like standing firm against a strong wind. Soon after, my younger brother Max got mixed up in the whole mess. He didn't mean to, but his involvement made the surprise for the wedding go haywire, and he tried to mend things between Emily and me. It felt like I was stuck in the middle of a family disagreement that I didn't really want to be a part of. Having a talk with Max was like being super careful with what I said. He tried to explain that the surprise was meant to be this huge, loving gesture, but it was tough for me to see it that way because my trust in them had been broken. It felt like I was trying to walk on eggshells, not wanting to upset anyone, but also not sure how to make things right. To make matters more complicated, my parents took Max's side. They thought that it was all just a big misunderstanding, and they believed I might be overreacting. It was surprising and kind of frustrating that they didn't see how much this had hurt me. It seemed like they wanted to brush it off as if it wasn't a big deal, but to me, it was a huge deal. I never wanted Max to get caught up in this, and I certainly didn't expect my parents to side with him. It was like my own family was divided over this situation, making it even more difficult to handle. Max, in his own way, was trying to make things better, but it was a tangled web of emotions and misunderstandings. Trying to talk to Max about what happened was tricky. He wanted me to see the surprise as a grand expression of love, but all I could see was the broken trust. It felt like they didn't understand the depth of my feelings and how much their actions had hurt me. It wasn't just about the surprise, it was about the lack of consideration for my fears and emotions. Our family dinners became uncomfortable gatherings, filled with unspoken tension. It was challenging because I felt confined by my emotions, not only regarding Emily and Max, but also concerning the trust within our family. Despite the rift in our family, I found solace in sticking to my convictions. I didn't require everyone to share my perspective. It was painful, but I couldn't compromise my beliefs for the sake of pretending that everything was fine. I had to remain authentic, even if it meant standing up for my beliefs on my own. Just when I thought everything was calm, Emily stormed into my office like a whirlwind, completely catching me off guard. Her quick steps echoed down the hallway, and before I could even prepare myself, she burst into the room, her face showing all sorts of emotions. It felt like I was suddenly in the middle of a TV show I never saw coming. My coworkers peeked over their cubicles, wide-eyed and surprised, as if they were watching the most dramatic scene unfold. Our usually quiet office turned into a scene for a heated conversation that I wasn't ready to handle. "Jake, we need to talk like now." Emily's voice cut through the air, sharp and determined. Her frustration and desperation were written all over her face, as clear as day. My cheeks turned as red as a ripe tomato, and suddenly my coworkers, who had been minding their own business moments ago, were all ears to the unexpected drama. I kinda wish the ground would swallow me whole just to escape the awkwardness. Trying to dial down the discomfort, I motioned for Emily to join me in a quieter spot. The glass walls, usually meant to keep things open and visible, now felt more like a giant fishbowl, displaying our personal issues to the entire office. In our little hideout, Emily let it all out. A mix of frustration and desperation plastered across her face. "Jake, you've gotta understand, this wasn't how things were supposed to go. I never meant to hurt you," she pleaded, really making her case. But you know, her words were fighting against the fact that trust between us was completely shattered. Trying to keep my cool, I told her straight up, "Emily, we've been through this. I can't go back. We're done." It was a tough call, and my coworkers were watching the whole thing, passing judgment without saying a word. Despite Emily trying to explain herself, it felt like there was this huge gap between us. She wasn't willing to give up, and she said that she was going to keep showing up if I didn't go back to her. I told her that this was my office, and if she didn't leave immediately, I would have security take her away. She must have seen it in my face that I was dead serious about this, so she left. While my coworkers watched, you could almost feel the unspoken opinions hanging in the air. Sarah, a colleague peeking over her cubicle, threw in her 2 cents. "Jake, maybe you should cut her some slack. People screw up, you know." I nodded at Sarah, appreciating her point of view, but I told her, this is something I gotta handle my way. I was trying to keep a grip on my personal life story. Man, the embarrassment just kept on growing with every second. I felt totally exposed, like everyone in the office was getting a front row seat to my personal drama. The initial shock turned into this weird discomfort, and I was stuck there, not knowing what the heck to say. All I wanted was a fast-forward button to get back to my regular work life and shake off the awkwardness caused by this totally unexpected situation. I felt like the walls were closing in on me. I was itching for a quick fix, something to zap me back to normalcy. The last thing I want is to keep carrying around the embarrassment of this unexpected mess. The revelation hit me hard, like a surprise in my life's drama. A friend told me that Emily used to think that I was a coward. Finding this out hit me like a plot twist in my life's storyline. A buddy spilled the beans, telling me that the whole grand wedding surprise was Emily's way of trying to get me out of my comfort zone. I was just there, sitting and trying to process it all. Coward? Seriously? It stung. The person who was supposed to be on my wavelength thought that I was some kind of chicken. As I dug deeper into the whole story, it turned out Emily cooked up this surprise to challenge that view of me being a scaredy cat. The doves, the decorations, all of it was her way of pushing me out of my cozy bubble. Instead of just talking to me about it, she went for this massive prank that ended up wrecking the trust between us. I sat there, wondering why Emily didn't just have a heart-to-heart with me. Why is there a need for this over-the-top surprise? It felt like a communication breakdown, like she took this detour that led straight into a trusted disaster. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how important open and honest communication is. If Emily had just told me how she felt, we could have avoided this whole mess. But nope, she went for the fireworks and doves instead. Untangling my emotions was hard. I felt hurt for being called a coward and confused about why she didn't talk to me. Our friend tried to explain, saying she wanted me to grow, but her good intentions turned into chaos. This revelation made me question our relationship. How could she think that I am a coward without talking to me? The person who wanted me to be brave had caused a mess that needed the courage to face. The cancelled wedding wasn't just a bummer because of the lousy surprise. There was more to it, a lack of understanding and communication. Our relationship had some serious issues that needed sorting out. Dealing with all these feelings was tough. I felt hurt, confused, and kind of mad. What I really wanted was a proper heart-to-heart to untangle all the stuff hidden beneath the surface because of that messed up surprise. I wish we could just sit down, have a real talk, and clear the air. It's like untangling a knot. You've got to work hard through it step by step. And honestly, that's what we needed to do to get things back on track. But I don't know if this is going to happen now. Anyway, thanks guys for listening to me and letting me rant. That was a wrap up for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Go ahead and smash that like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again, and we will be seeing you in the next one.